It's carrying and conquests. Let's play TTRPGs done right. War games and gaming. We're storming the chains of tonight.
Hello. Are we here? Yep. 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 Hello. Come on. Ah, come on. Come on. Jesus. Buttons. Ah, that's not even the right one. Come on. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hello. There we go. Oh, hello. All right. Here's what I got. I'm playing with my phone. I want to make sure this works. I got the table. Got a. I got a little problem with something in my ear. Okay, that's an easy way to take care of that. So make sure that, okay, there we go. Want to make sure you can see this. If I can ever hit all the buttons. God, there's so many buttons. Okay, there we go. All right. Can you see the tabletop simulator splash screen on your screen? Can you hear me at all? Okay, okay. All right, good, 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 good. Okay. Last time it was being uncool about that, so I just want to make sure we could see it. All right. Now, the reason it loads, it might, well, today it's being okay. It was not being nice to me as far as loading, but that's largely my connection issues, not the software. The software runs pretty well. Um, I got screwed out of fast internet though, so that's why it's taking a while. Plus, I could use a new SSD. Mine's probably already run out of. I hate SSDs. I want my HDD back. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. There we go. Let's take that off the screen. Okay. So maneuvering around off of full screen is something I got to get used to, but all right, that's a couple of added things there. And screwing around with scale, because scale is a problem, but uh, the reason scale doesn't work is not an issue with the software. It's you know the files that people put in are of different configuration, and sometimes they don't scale properly. So that's a matter of the personal creator. So in this situation, this is why, like, when people keep pushing Roll20, it's really hard because it, it's all Star Wars. It's all copyrighted stuff. It's very hard to find it. And even when you do find it, largely you have to pay for it. And you might be violating some sort of IP, all that crap. So, um, I mean, and technically you're probably doing that here, but I'm not. This isn't anything I made. This is just stuff that's on the thing already, so I won't get in trouble. you know, and I don't have to pay for it. These are actually our models, I think, in some cases. So, and I think if FFG found out, they might not be mad. But it's not in my name, so I'm just using it, and so that's one of the reasons. Plus, I like 3D. I think it looks cool. Um, but people are using different software to import the stuff and different software to make it, and that's why not everything always, clicks completely. So in this particular case, I can't get the Z95s to be the right scale. So that's all there is to it. I just have to deal with it. But anyway, so I made a super simple version of this. I got to get enough of them. And I know it'd be nice if they were at the same altitude and all that, but just kind of a quick and simple thing. In fact, it might, just because I'm such a OCD about the scale, I might just do this. Whoops. Hey, helps if you know how to click a mouse right. Okay, I'm just gonna do this, just because I'm. it will violate my little OCD. I'll do this. So this is actually the Moldy Crow, but um, we're just gonna there's gonna be Z95s today because that way it won't look okay. So there we go. So anyway, so you got your I got everything almost set up here. Where are my Y wings? Y wing. There we go. So there's just kind of two scales or two skills that I use here for the pilot, and that's maneuver and gunnery. Wow, why don't, okay, let's try to get in there a little tighter. Yeah, that's about right. So maneuver is exactly what it is. Your ships will have a maneuver rating, and you will have a pilot skill. So um, when you're trying to do something like a loop-de-loop or a barrel roll or split S or whatever you're doing to try to maneuver and dogfight, um, the pilot will have their pilot skill plus the maneuver rating of the craft versus the difficulty rating of the maneuver in order to do it successfully. And with shooting, similar thing. You have a gunnery skill, and the ship has well, I should put it this way. Every weapon has its own fire control. Sometimes they're not the same. Something like with a Y-wing that might be firing torpedoes or ions instead of blasters or something like that. sometimes there's different fire controls for the different weapon systems. But fire control plus gunnery versus, target number to hit. That's it. And then if you hit, there's strength of weapon, or more appropriately, damage. In Star Wars, they call it strength of weapon. They should replace that with damage. But anyway, it's the damage of the weapon versus the shielding and body points, or in some cases hull rating, if you want to use that, of the ship. So there's a amount of damage that it can sustain based on its construction, and then there's an added amount of damage it can sustain if it's got shields. So it's your damage versus that. So if you got, like, a TIE fighter won't have shields, just, damage versus body rating. And if the damage exceeds the body rating, kaput, it goes kaboom. But if there's a shield, then it would have to, exceed shield and body it or destroy it. So the shields go away, at least temporarily. If say you've got 2 body points and 1 shield point, and you get 1 damage done to you, the shield will go away, at least temporarily. So if you take another shot in the same place, it'll just be body rating. So that way it shows the shields going down, instead of counting percentage points and stuff like that. Like if you play the TIE Fighter game, your shields, are rated like percentage or points or something like that. Easy for a computer to count, not so easy for people to count during the game. So we just do it that way. And that's pretty much it. When it comes to the big ships that have like whole arrays, like a Star Destroyer that's got just big banks of like turbo laser cannon, stuff like that, there is one added deal. There's a battery commander, and you do that mass, their leadership versus how many people are being commanded, as far as how many, batteries and barrels and stuff like that. So it'll play out just slightly differently. It'll determine how many of the weapons in the array actually hit, and then you figure damage based on that. So that's the extra step for the big weapons and things like that. But that's it. That way I keep it super simple. There is a move, like if we do it on miniatures, there's a move rate for each ship, and that's just done in inches. This is the tabletop simulator that I just wanted everybody to use, but you don't have to use it. This is how we can play it. You don't have to have it. You don't have to do anything. You say, I want my Y-wings to go straight for this round, something like that, just to keep it easy. Okay, they've got a move of 4, so there you go. That's it. And then you tell me next time, well, I want them to make a hard right, 90-degree right or something like that. Okay, and they're still going 4, so it would actually be 2, because the turns cost speed. So that's their hard right turn. That's it. And as far as it does have limitations. Obviously, you can't depict all the cool, like, barrel rolls and stuff like that. But those can be notated and still be used, for evasive maneuvers or trying to get behind another fighter to get that 6 o'clock shot on them and stuff like that. So I'll put out the pictures when we play, if this comes up, that explains all the different maneuvers, and you can see how they work and use them as well. So that's it. If you don't complete the maneuver, the ship behaves in a certain way, just basically drifts in different ways if the maneuver's check has failed. And it'll place your ship in a different position than you expect it to be. But other than that, that's it. That's pretty much the whole kit and caboodle for that. And boarding actions are just the miniature game on a ship. All you're doing, if you're in I just kind of abstract it for the sake of the game, but it's just a piloting roll to see if you can pilot your shuttle to properly to make the seal, and then the troops you know, have to roll to get through the port, and then they drop in, and it's just normal ground combat at that point. And that's it. Um, you can hyperspace away like immediately, like have you ever done this? I don't know how much of that sounds like you played a lot of the Star Wars TIE Fighter game. And every once in a while, this seemed to happen more in X-Wing than in TIE Fighter, but every once in a while, if you went into hyperspace at the wrong time, you might actually make contact with another ship as you're hyperspacing out. And so the the more things that are in your proximity, if you do one of these emergency hyperspace things, it could cause a collision and stuff like that. So, but there'll be buoys that you're supposed to fly to, and then just like in the game and video game, and go out from there. So that's it. As far as launching ships out of a this stuff might not even apply to the role playing people, but um, each hangar bay has a a crew skill that determines how long it takes to launch more fighters. You know, Typhoon, here's how many ships it can launch. Here's how long it's going to take to get that many ships ready. You know, you don't just launch 12 or 20 or 70 ships out of Star Destroyer at once. They come out four at a time, something like that, intervals. So that shows they show up as reinforcements that way and stuff like that. That's about it. Pretty simple stuff. So as far as the RPG, you you may or may not be in fighters, but a light freighter is kind of the same thing. You've got if you've got a gun on like the Falcon or something, when you've got guns on the light freighter, that's it. The pilot's making the piloting rolls for evasion or trying to you know dogfight with another craft, and the people that are in the gun emplacements are using their skill plus the fire control of the guns in order to shoot them. And that's it. So space stuff is super simple. I wanted to tone it down. You can get into missiles and stuff like that, which aren't all that dissimilar, but there's homing and stuff for a couple of them. Some concussion missiles can be homing missiles and stuff. So that gets into a slight more complex thing because you have to track those as to how well they're homing in on your thing, and there's electronic countermeasures to stop them and things like that. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's it. And in the domain game, it's more about it's like mass battles. The people that are doing the domain game, they don't always do these miniature things. They just have their combat force has a fire like a firepower rating. The enemy has a firepower rating. You compare the two, and the difference tells you who wins and stuff like that. So it's super simple stuff. That's it. But yeah, this is the system, and this is why I love it. You can just pick stuff up, move it around, drop new stuff in. Uh, they even got the assault gunboat. These are from X-Wing, but they look super cool, especially in a big, yeah. But these are from Armada. Get the big one out there. So it's real easy. Oh yeah, and then here's how the dice work on this system. Boom, instead of the dice roller, well, first you got to hit the right button. I'm bad with buttons. Okay, there we go. Oops, that's stuff in the drawers even open up. There's dice. Oh, it dropped into the drawer. If you throw them too hard, they knock shit over and stuff like that. But there you go. Three play, got 2 3s, so I got a 6. Double. That's it. That's how easy it is to do dice. So much simpler. You just have to be careful about, that's why when they call it tabletop simulator, they aren't kidding. It is absolutely that. If you drop something off the edge, it'll fall off the edge. It will come back though. You don't have to go on your hands and knees and look for it or anything like that. But that's it. Questions? Cool. Yep. I get. Well, the only other thing is fire arcs, which are super simple. Like um, the Falcon, both of their uh, weapons, the top and bottom turrets can move in a 360-degree angle, like you saw in the movie. So your fire arc is anywhere. But in certain cases, like the Y wings, some Y wings don't have a 360-degree fire arc. They can only fire forward into the sides. They can't point backwards. Sometimes that happens. So you just have to follow the fire arc for the different weapons, stuff like that. Pretty simple stuff. So, the Star Destroyers are the same way. Most things can fire forward, but if, you can't see most of the weapons here, but it's not that detailed, but there's weapons all along here. And they can only fire off in this direction. They couldn't fire this direction. You have to fire these to go that direction. Stuff like that. Excuse me. Super simple. I'm a gassy old dude. I'm always belching. Sorry. So these are pretty fun. I love Armada, boy. When I saw Armada, I got really excited. Then I looked at the price of Armada and I wasn't so excited anymore because I couldn't afford any of that shit. But if I could, I'd be swimming in this stuff. I love the space battles as much, almost more than the ground stuff. So Armada was cool, but it was a weird system and it was all kind of. I would have just bought the miniatures and played something simple with it. I didn't like the rules for it, but I was like, wow, look at that. That's cool, man. I could have big fleet battles. But it was like the Millennium Falcon was like $40. I was like, I can't do that. They did have miniatures, metal miniatures back in the 80s for Star Wars stuff. They were hard to find, but they were cool. Never could have enough of them. So, but yeah, got the star. You got the dreadnought from the computer games and all that. Somewhere in here, there's an interdictor. Yeah, here we go. Got it all. The victory. This one's from. So, anyway, and I got the ground stuff too. So for let's see if I hit the right button. Again, buttons, but where's that other one? Well, let's see how this one does. There we go. Oh, a couple of broken things. But here's the ground guys. Some of them anyway. So that's how I'll set that stuff up. So that's the maps. This is a different board, obviously, than the one we're doing. The one we're doing will be more mountainous and stuff like that. So, um, but I'll be able to put something out that gives a reasonable depiction of the terrain and you can just watch it through this system right here. Um, Type what you want or get on the mic if you want, if you've got the time or you've got the ability, whichever works for you, and just say, you know, uh, I just, moused right off of it. But I just go air it like this. I get this overhead so you can tell me, you go, well, I want C3PO to go to, to the 12 o'clock or the 6 o'clock or the, you know, whatever direction you want it to go, and I can move it for you and just keep everything that way. So, I did it with a D&D campaign. It worked pretty good. There, there was one guy that just never stopped complaining about it every time, but other than that, it worked fine. So I'm hoping that that won't happen again. But yeah, yeah. Hey man, I'm showing one of my players how to do I've simplified my Star Wars a little bit so that it can be more approachable for noobs. So I was kind of showing them how to do it. I always get a lot of flack from people about tabletop simulators. I'm trying to sell it to people now that I got the thing running right again. The last time I turned it on, I had forgotten that I opted to try their new beta. And I was like, why is this thing so broken now? Nothing works. And then I realized I wasn't using the full program. So as soon as I went in and shut that off, it went back to normal. And now it's functional. And but I get so many people that don't want to use it, and it's a bummer because I just love it. It's cheap, it's three-dimensional, it's versatile, and I don't want to have to keep paying for stuff and keep loading stuff in and all that sort of thing. So I wish I knew how to load things in better for this one. I don't. I got to take everybody else's stuff instead. Um, but there's still enough Star Wars stuff laying around that I can use it pretty much for my campaign, with a couple of exceptions, so that I can work around. But yeah, it's much better. I get people always asking, why don't you do that forge this or that? And forge kind of charge me for the rule books. This thing doesn't charge me for nothing. Just up, 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 up. Helps if you don't hit the damn whoozy thingy. The only problem with it, I'll have to remember to be more careful about that, because when I have it in the non full screen, I can accidentally, my absent-minded ass will accidentally click the exit button like I just did. Yeah, yeah. I just basically what I did was there was a board game that came with this RPG called well, it didn't come with it, but it was supposed to be one of those mass battle add-ons called Star Warriors. It's a pretty fun game, but as much as I gripe about people hating rules and stuff, I could see where it might be a bit much to consume for a new player. So I just took the miniatures game, which is super simple, and just used that for the space stuff too. And then it keeps everything the same way. So everything's based off the miniatures game stuff, which you don't have to roll dice pools. You don't have to do any of that shit. You can just 2d6 plus your skill, and that's it. It's quicker than shit. And so I was just showing them how to do that. My son's playing Magic the Gathering on it with his buddy right now. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a great system. Once it's like Office. Once you set it up, it has great utility. Some people find setting it up, like you to set up an Excel sheet properly can be a pain in the ass. But once you got the thing going, it can save you a lot of time. Same thing with this. And if I knew what I was doing with three-dimensional modeling and stuff, I could even do more with it, but I don't. So I watch one guy play war games all the time, and he's got some dude who's a whiz with 3D modeling, and they're making all sorts of cool World War II stuff all the time, and I'm jealous. But they're one of those, we won't let you play because you didn't vote for our guy people. He's not, but all the people he plays with is, so he won't let me play with them. It's kind of rude, but such is life. But yeah, it's got a bunch of great stuff. It's still got tons of D&D stuff, and the best one is the particle effects. If you've got enough machine horsepower to run the particle effects, that's some cool shit. It has like when you cast magic missile, there's 3 missiles that show up on the side of the model and come shooting out. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, yeah. They updated it. Part of the problem, or part of the necessity, I should say, for needing to update it was apparently Unity pulled something and that wasn't working out with them and all that because everything's connected to the internet now and you have to download stuff. And so they had to revamp it because of Unity's changes, and they took that opportunity to fix some things that they hadn't fixed yet, um, with a couple of network issues with Steam. So that's the other thing. Steam's changing all the time, so you have to change with Steam. So you make a program and it runs great, and then Steam goes, well, we've made this addition, then you got to go back and change your program to make it work. So they did all that with an update, 14.5 or something like that. So it automatically updates when you buy the system. So, and if you're lucky, you'll catch it on the 50% off that they have every once in a while for it. But it's only $20. I mean, even for me, that's the other thing. It's just that's it. I've paid my $20 and I don't have to do anything more. There's no DLC or anything like that. Now, there's some games you can buy. They've got a whole list of about 43 games that you can buy for it as DLC. None of them interest me, but whatever. But free stuff galore. BattleTech, D&D, 40K, Space Hulk, Talisman. Um, Games Workshop got wind of it, and they've been trying to banhammer anybody that does Games Workshop stuff. But if you're lucky, you can still find some 40K. But the fantasy stuff really isn't copyrightable. There used to be Warhammer 40 fantasy stuff that was super cool, and they got rid of a lot of that though. But the D&D shit works great. Right. I mean, it's just why pay? Like you go to that Forge or whatever, and you've got to pay, uh, like a monthly fee or something. You have to pay for every rule book. I said, I don't want, first of all, you're not going to have what I want. You've only got 5e stuff, and I wouldn't pay for it. I've already got that stuff anyway. I'm not going to pay twice for it just so it can run on one machine or one software, and then you got to download all the terrain and stuff like that. So I keep getting pushed to do Roll20, and I won't do that either, especially with Star Wars because it's hard to find Star Wars stuff. You can find generic sci-fi stuff, but it really doesn't, it doesn't. You're not going to have stormtroopers. You're not going to have X-wings or anything like that. And if you do, it's going to be sketchy, and people start going, "Hey, you can't have that" or whatever. So here, the only reason that Games Workshop got a hold of it is because too many big mouths talking about it on the internet. If they just would have kept it on the down low, it would have been fine. So, but other than that, it's great. And you can have music too. They added in music, so you've got a little, and it looks like an old MP3 player. So, and you can change the tunes, and you can turn them up and down, just like the old MP3 player. And you just load in whatever you want, whatever music you want into it. I mean, it has to be MP3, but I don't think it'll do, you know, wave. But anyway, like there's one that has a dungeon and you can hear water dripping and stuff and like a growling in the dungeon. It's like ambiance, uh, sound effects and stuff like that. You can put soundboards in it now too, where there was a Star Wars soundboard that worked pretty good for a while. Had R2D2 and a laser blast and an X-wing flying through and all sorts of stuff like that. Sounded great. So can't beat it. And all of that is free. You don't have to pay for any of it. Just don't get some uppity IP Nazi to, go, hey, you can't play Star Wars because they might, report you to Steam. But other than that, you're fine. Yeah, this does have a scripting language, and that was one of the problems. It broke because of something Steam did, so they're trying to re-implement that with the update. But you can like there was a fully scripted version of Armada, where it took you through the whole. Rebellion was another one, FFG stuff, where it dealt the cards for you. It went step by step how to set up and how to play the whole game and all that. And that stuff's neat as long as it doesn't break in the middle of the game or something like that, or break with an update. I just like to play it manually. So, but yeah, it works. You know, yeah, I mean, it just they they want to charge you for every little damn thing, and they go, well, people are making it and they want to make money off of it. Well, I'm sure they do, but I'm not made of money. I can't pay for every little thing. Plus, you got to upload all that stuff in. And with Roll20, I got to set this whole thing up. All of a sudden, the preparation for one session becomes a week-long preparation between writing the material and getting the handouts. And I do a lot of lore with Star Wars, so I'm actually writing fiction and stuff like that, and then setting up the encounters and all that crap. And then on top of that, you want me to thread together some map on Roll20? Pass. Um, and their character sheets for D6 don't work worth a damn anyway. So here, I just get you. I, I get them on this StreamYards. Hopefully, some people don't seem to want to do this, but if I can get them on StreamYards, all I have to do is share the damn screen, and they can just tell me, I want this piece to go here. Okay, I'll move it there, and they could just watch. So, but I don't know. Some people are weird. I got one guy who just does nothing but complain about it. And I don't know why it's such a big deal. It's not like I'm making him buy it. I'm just log in and play. So this system works great as long as you don't have Windows 11. Windows 11 makes, but that's not my fault. I'm not, I didn't fucking Microsoft. But it works better than Discord, which is always breaking and slowing down speed and shit like that. The other thing with this is I can just do this now. I bought the extra package. So right here, all you got to do, well, you do it. I think I've seen you doing streaming, so you got it. So you can just click right in and join. And I don't have to set up, do all that OBS setup and all that crap to get another person onto the screen. I can just click that and you're on. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why some people really get irritable about using this thing. I don't know. People get used to what they're used to, and one guy is just a Roll20 guy, and he just doesn't want to do anything but that. But some people go, yeah, I don't like the idea of having to tell you where to move my stuff. I want to move my stuff. Well, okay, I guess. But I've used it to great success with other people. I played my Ash Worlds campaign with 5 people, and it did great. Now we had 3 out of the 5 connect to the thing and move their own things. We had 2 that just didn't want to deal with it and didn't want to pay for the program, but they were open to trying it, and it worked okay through the stream. And they weren't upset that they weren't rolling dice. We rolled the dice for them, and they took that okay. I know how some people get about wanting to roll their own dice. So, but dealing with automatic dice rollers has been a real pain in the ass. So that's another reason why this is great. They actually roll real dice, it even sounds like real dice when they roll. Got that nice sounding little click on them and stuff like that. Yeah. So hopefully I can sell it to them all. If they all show up. One guy might not show up. And then I'll have to go out and look for more players. Always chasing people around to play these games. But I got to have my Star Wars. My favorite thing. But boy, it's hard. I looked to see how long it's been since I played this. I thought it was 2 years, and hell, if it wasn't 3. 3 years begging people to play one game. Wow. Oh yeah. Yeah. I 200 plus. I saw that. I used to do that stuff in Gen Con, but the problem is that most people can't believe that you can play Panzer Blitz in an afternoon, let alone, I tried to sell that to people and they just go, there's no possible way. And I says, bro, I used to play living campaigns through the mail, the snail mail in the 80s. It was run by, 2 or 3 people that coordinated all that. And there you got people telling me that you can't do it over the internet now. It's bullshit, but you'll never get them to do it. Yeah, yeah, begging between Twitter suppressing me and all everybody going, it's too complicated this and all that kind of shit, and then hating the Star Wars. Everybody hates Star Wars because of Disney. Stupid. It's you just people just won't do it. They insist it can't be done. Everything's too complicated. Hell, you got people saying that they can't run more than four or five people in a campaign or in a game. I just saw that on Twitter. I used to play with 15 people, and they were young kids. We were kids. Well, yeah, but people scream things out. Okay, tell them to shut up. It's to come up with all these kind of lame excuses. Well, somebody might fart in the mic. Well, yeah, okay. Well, it's not perfect. So what? Nothing is. There's one game being done. Well, there's a board game being done with 315 people. It's a war game. It's the biggest war game you'll probably ever see. And it was so well known that it was in The Big Bang Theory, that TV show, and the head nerd pulled it out, and it was like this joke because it's well known that this thing can't be finished. It's being finished now, and they've got 315 players, but in reality they've got more like 20, and everybody else just kind of comes in and says some shit every once in a while and leaves. So you'll never get all that going. 200 plus people, nah. You know, I got all the spreadsheets and all the material to do it, but you'll never out. I I'd never find 200 people that would commit to playing it for any period of time. I yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I could play D&D, I could play Star Wars, I could play any of those games with an innumerable amount of people. The other thing I don't get is people that can't that say it's too hard to run two characters. Maybe I'm missing something, and it probably is that as a kid we didn't give that much of a hoot about role playing. We just said what we were doing and all that. There wasn't really maybe when you actually got to think about different personalities and put something behind them other than meat puppets, it might be different. But we didn't have any problem with it. But they were just it was all about killing things mostly. That might be the difference. Yeah. I just, but it's no fun if you don't, we went to Gen Con and played, with 50 people in a dungeon crawl, multiple parties over a giant dungeon, you know, 10 different parties, five people per party, and we were all competing in the same dungeon. Well, okay, so the reason how we did it with multiple people like that is written orders, and you determine what you're going to do prior to the start of the round. So there's no, and I've been lax about this because this is the way Star Wars is supposed to be played. Everybody's supposed to say what they're going to do before the round starts. I'd like to get people to start doing that. I'm sure the one guy's going to complain about it because he seems to be that kind of person. Um, but you would just write down what you're going to do, and then like there used to be game shows that did this. So you'd write down your answer and then you put it face out so the DM could read it and just lay it down in this. We had like these little trays. They were like little pieces of metal that were bent to be. What they were supposed to hold is music. We got them from a school, but you could make shit like this. But that's where I got mine. The school that closed. So you take your three by five, you just write in, attack this or move here or whatever it was in fairly large letters and lay it in that tray and face it towards me as the DM. And then I could just go around and do it real fast and simple. And it made things more interesting when you decided what you were going to do before you waited for everybody else, because you can change and you can make all sorts of kind of metagaming decisions if you do it round robin like that. So that made it go much faster. And we also had a spreadsheet. I wasn't rolling that stuff out on dice. Hell no. I just ran, I'd have the spreadsheet make a random number generation, and then go from there. So uh, the more sophisticated the spreadsheets got, the more easy it was to do that sort of stuff. That's it. I started going to. He's right. I started going to TikTok because I was just so effing mad at Twitter all the time. So I went to TikTok, and it's like 18 to 34 is the demographic. Like 80% or more of the people on TikTok are between 18 and 34. There's mostly 5e players. And you'll always hear them say about, well, I do that old stuff, it's so hard and complicated. And I sit and I listen to 5e being played. It they don't seem to understand. It's completely different. They're no wonder they're writing, AI songs about 2 hour combat. Isn't it? Only people who are constantly hyperbolic in their descriptions of stuff or didn't have as much experience playing the game as they thought, those are the ones that'll tell you it took 2 hours to play 2 minutes, like the Bill Sylvie. And I know Bill's very intelligent and he's experienced and stuff like that, but I think that in some cases, some of those games he played them once or twice and didn't give them a chance. And people that play something once and then judge it off of them. Of course, the first time you play, it's not going to run as smoothly. You've got to pick it up. But we never had that 2 hours to run one, round of combat in any of those war games. And everybody says, oh, you can never play those. They take forever. It's really the opposite. I've watched 5e and I played one the other night for a couple hours. It was exhausting going through one combat round, and we had 4 people. It was just I was ready to fall asleep. Um, but one of the things you got to do is you got to really be prepared. You've got to have, and sometimes I'm not, and then I look like a fool because things run too long. But if you've got people that argue during the process, that obviously will slow things down. But that's not the rules fault. That's why Gary wrote the whole thing about Barrett's lawyers and telling them to shut up and deal with the ruling because it would just bog everything down. So, but if you have things ready and you use little ways to make it go faster, or you just automate it with computers. We were using like I used computers in 1980. I had a Tandy 600. It was an 11-pound laptop, but it would randomly generate numbers, and it had a spreadsheet program, and that made everything go faster, much faster. And even if I turned off the random generation and let the dude roll his own dice, it still was I was still prepared. And the other thing we did is we didn't use uh, the book to find charts and shit like that. We took the book to the library. The library had a copy machine. We would blow up the chart so it was larger, and then we would post it all over the room in different. Like I had a big cork board, and I would just like a bulletin board, and I would put everything there. So all you had to do was look, just turn your head and read it in big letters instead of this shit. You can't imagine how fast that makes things when you get that kind of preparation involved. Yeah, that's the other thing. You have to if somebody wants to, dick around, and that's a problem. The guy says, hey, we've got to you've got to allow for people to be social, but that allowance has to be considered when you make an estimate as to how difficult or lengthy it is to play. You know, we all smoked cigarettes back in the day. Fortunately, I don't anymore. I don't want to be a big adult scold or whatever, but we did. So there'd be a cigarette break, and a cigarette break, everybody would go. Even if you didn't smoke, you'd go because what were you going to do? Sit there and stare at the book while 5 other guys went outside to smoke because we couldn't smoke in a house. So everybody went out there, and it turned in from 5 minutes smoking a cigarette to a 15-minute bullshit session. We were all joking around and having fun. It was fun. It was part of the camaraderie of the game. But we didn't take that 20 minutes that we spent jerking around and go, F this game, it takes too long to play. But nowadays, that seems to be what people do. They always blame the system. So I watched one earlier with race system. And it looks fun, but would drag with too many people. It's designed for small party. Yeah, I don't. I want it. Yeah, uh, not my bag. The only reason I'm running a smaller thing as I am is because I can't get more. I'm not. I'm not going to go. Oh, I only have five. It's not worth it. But I played with 15, including some of your Broser buddies at one time, and it was fun. Now some people said, "Oh, you weren't doing it right." I was doing it perfectly right. The problem is that there was three factions, and it was on Discord, and Discord sucks. And the more you use it, the worse it was getting. So every time I switched rooms, it would start to bog down and all that crap. You know, and then they're like, "Well, you're making us wait too long." Well, you got some guy who's bitching about something or asking 100 questions. You'd have people that wouldn't read the instructions or wouldn't read um, the session log, and oh, I'm not TLDR, TLDR, and then they'd show up and spend half of the time that we were supposed to be playing asking questions and playing catch up because they would refuse to read two paragraphs off a Word document that I sent them and then say, well, you weren't organized and all that. That's why I got so damn mad at those guys because they were full of shit. They lied about what was going on, and they wouldn't read the explanations that were given to them. Um, and I knew they were because I would ask them questions about what I typed, and they would go, "Hey, did you look at this?" "Oh yeah, 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 I read it." Okay, and then I'd quiz them on it, and they didn't know shit. So they were complaining about not being explained, and they just weren't reading it. And it was fucking play by post. If how can you complain about having to read stuff if you're playing by post? So they can go to hell, right? But he's clones. Oh yeah, the BX. Well, here that's the thing. I've said this before with like BX. I've never was a BX guy. To me, BX was just dungeon, the board game with advanced rules and a different map. That's all I always saw BX. Um, and all these people are making 100 different BX things, and all it is this is the stuff that we used to get in Dragon magazine for free. Well, not for free. You had to pay for Dragon magazine, but you had a yearly subscription, and people would write in, and they'd have all these variant rules, and you could pick and choose which ones you want to use. Now people are taking the variant rules and applying them to BX, putting a different cover art on it, and selling it to you for $50. Bullshit! I'm not buying that. I've got the magazines, you know. So I don't. I like the idea of a retro clone that got people to be able to play an old game without having to play collectors prices for it. That's fine. But now it's I never liked this rule, so I'm going to rewrite it and then sell it to you. Nope. No thanks. Yeah. Well, that's it. I was playing a text-based game. That's what these guys said. They wouldn't improve jack shit. They wouldn't read because it had lore, and the instructions were also being written out to them. They wouldn't pay attention to it. Then they acted like they were confused. And I can't help somebody if they won't read the explanation that they're asking for, which was provided to them several times. And then they had the audacity to claim that they improved something. Bullshit. So that's why I don't like those guys. Uh, uh, you know, they're full of shit. And Red lied too, which surprised the hell out of me. I tried to be nice. I tried to apologize because I was, maybe a little too harsh with her about what happened, and she up and said it didn't happen at all. That's just a lie. So that's why I fuck her too. Being pretty ain't enough. uh, right. That's it. It's exactly chaos. It's just a variant rule disguised as a whole new system. You know, um, like Shadow Dark. which I have a very vehement dislike for because of the way that it was presented, marketed, and and the way that certain people who were promoting it behaved over it. But the thing that always got me was I read this lady, Elvin Made In, write this thing like it was some revelation. It's the same brochure type bullshit. Hey, they're using torches. That's so revolutionary. What it's some rediscovered thing that was lost in the annals of RPG time. No, that's bullshit. That was something that everybody did and got rifled out of the game because of the same old cliche crap about how everything took too much time and was too complicated. And for years, people that mentioned using torches got ridiculed as being simulationists and horrible people that didn't know what a game was, and that was overcomplexing things and all that. But somehow when this one chick comes up with it, it's revolutionary. That's the kind of thing that always pissed me off, that revisionist attitude of that stuff. And a lot of the guys that were ripping on people like me for being too hardcore on rules, all of a sudden were singing his praises when the influencers spoke up. Yeah, so that's why I get angry and profane. uh, yeah. Well, it's a BX clone. It may be better disguised from the fact that it's BX, but it's just BX. Yeah, no, it's not. It's just but um, and that's a system that that woman bought her way into things. This is an unfortunate truth about well, it's not unfortunate, but it's some people don't like this fact. The fact of the matter is that D&D and TSR was the Microsoft of the RPG world. The reason you know Dungeons and Dragons over other RPGs is because they had money. They had a guy named Bloom that gave them tons of cash. And that cash translated into exposure through advertisement that other people that were making similar things, and in some cases better things, didn't have the advertisement dollar to put it in front of half of America. And for everybody that talks about satanic panic and it being weird and all that, there's a hell of a lot of kids my age that were playing D&D because of the satanic panic, not because they were Satanists, not because they hated God or any of that weird stuff, but because in the 80s, kids liked things that were on the edge. Rebellion was part of America. We were liberty, freedom, and a little bit of an fu to authority. So oh wait, you don't want me to see it because it's got icky stuff in it? Well, what's the icky stuff? What's so bad that I can't even look at it? Let's go find out. That kind of deal. So it just made it more appealing to young males of the time. And that's why you have TSR and D&D being at because they had the money, not because they had the quality. Not that Dave and Gary weren't brilliant people and all that, but they just bought their way in. Same with Microsoft. Microsoft operating system was not the only operating system of the time. And Apple Macintosh was not the only operating system of the time. There's plenty of others. But Microsoft bought their way into the major market share, even though Microsoft is a shitbox, horrible piece of software and always has been. Bob Jester, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in. I know she did try and look to see if she was rude. Well, it was here's the thing that Red did is she went and looked through things, and I have deleted over a year's worth of stuff because I've gone through several times where I was told if I use an automated system to delete tweets that may violate rules, it may help my reach back. So all she did was find a couple of things where you and I were joking about her. Well, okay, I was joking about her arm flab or whatever. Um, but I wasn't. I didn't humiliate her and and tell her that her ideas were something that was irrelevant to the game and shit like that, that she did publicly to me. And that's why I got kind of shitty with her. And there was a little bit of, you know, pulling her hair because I thought she was cute too. So, um, but she went out and acted like it was some delusionary thing, and that's when I really pissed me off because she knows goddamn well what happened. Because I told her that at the time. So she was just lying. I heard all about it in the back. Yeah, well, like I say, I think a lot of those people you talk to sure tell a lot of tales about me. Um, yeah, Maiden uses AI. There's a lot of people that use AI in their article writing, and there's just little tricks to make it seem like they're not doing it, but they are. Hey, Peggy, I'm with you with the plethora of RPG. Yeah, Bob, it's too much. Um, let's see what else. No, I'm catching up with it. Normally, she sounds nothing like her article. Oh yeah, I heard. I don't want to sound too like chauvinist or whatever, but I did hear she had a really sexy voice, and I only heard it once, but only for a second. And it just sounded very Polish to me. But I think she's married and all that, so I don't want to be too mad. But uh, uh, I almost just out of sheer curiosity, I just want to hear her voice now. Right, what was it? What else did I miss here? But that's not, yeah. Okay. So anyway, sorry, I don't want to, I'm turning it into a gossip column and I don't want to do that. But there was a couple of things here that me and a couple of these guys need to catch up with. So back to the gaming. Um, uh, but there is a lot of that. There is a lot of, this is why I get so mad. It's not because I have to be the center of attention or be the only one with knowledge, but it really bugs the shit out of me that people that don't really know that much about this shit are being listened to. And some of the stuff they're saying is just bogus, or it's just generated stuff out of a computer, and they're monetizing it, and they're getting people to believe it, and sometimes it's revisionist or false, and it's irritating when I'm like, you know what, man, I understand the whole 40-year thing is now this trope that everybody mocks or whatever, but the fact of the matter is the calendar date says that's how long I've been doing this. And it's that doesn't mean you're instantly an expert or whatever, but you get this wet behind the ears, you know, some of you people weren't even out of the womb yet when I was doing the shit you're telling me you know better about. And that's the stuff that really pisses me off, especially when you're making money off of it. And I'm over here wondering how I'm going to scrape up 20 bucks for, you know, dinner because of COVID and all that stuff and a divorce. But that's my fault, not anybody else. COVID isn't, but the divorce is. Well, it's her fault too. Mostly her fault. But anyway, enough of that. So, um, uh, but it was funny to watch so many people promote that, including uh, Rob Kuntz with with that Alvin Maiden in chick. Oh, she's really, this, that, and the other thing, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, are you even reading this shit? You know. So anyway, but yeah, I'm playing Star Wars, Bob, and we could use some more people if you want to play. Uh-oh, I lost two. Too much drama. They split. They chased him away. All right. Well, anyway, next. I've noticed some exposures post things in such a weird way. It's like they're only able to see things through a modern lens and have no context. Yeah, yeah. It is. It's just and there's this game of telephone. It's one of the things that is really I know TikTok and people don't mix for good reasons because there's some really bizarre stuff on TikTok. But being able to talk to certain younger people that are playing 5e and see them kind of go, aha, and realize that what you're hearing about all of this stuff, whether it be the history of it or the mechanics or whatever, is usually just repetitious cliche and hyperbolic exaggeration. And when you drop hearing the 15 influencers try to tell you it's this way and examine it yourself, you see a totally different thing. And to you end up enjoying the system more. I saw one guy come out and he goes, I played my first second edition ever. And he's like, it's like a totally different thing. I'll never go back. I can't believe, why didn't I know about this before? And I told the kid, I says, because you listen to, Critical Role, and you watch, all these guys like Glass Cannon tell you all this crap. And that one guy with the long hair, I forget his name, that the one that everybody thinks is God's gift. He thinks he's God's gift to gaming. And they don't know jack. And when you just, research it for yourself, you get this completely different dimension that you walk into. A couple of people have picked up on it. It's really fun to watch. Yeah, man, come and play. We need more people, Bob. We play on Thursday at 7:30 Central Time. Yeah, we could use more people. It would be great. I know you said last time we had a long chat that you were a big Star Wars guy, so I was see if you could play. This actually has a bunch of real content from great people that wrote and submitted. Well, she's one thing she is not. I mean, I'm sure she's an intelligent person. I don't want to sit here and run her down or anything like that. She sure shit knew how to market herself and and setting the thing up where you can go and say something to promote yourself in something that's being that was really great. So I'm sure there's a lot of great contributions and stuff like that. Now, it's not jealousy, but I was irritated watching her and Alyssa, that Alyssa gal, the author, join X years after I had and rocket past me. Not for anything they said or didn't say, but because I had been paying $8 in a month for some reach and I wasn't getting it. So I wasn't jealous of them. I was upset at myself and the system for being dumb enough to pay in thinking it was going to help me out and for being ripped off by somebody who said it was going to help me out. That's why it made me mad to see those two, you know, because they shot from 0 to 7,000 in a couple of months. So the other reason I don't do well is because I made the mistake of talking politics on that account well before I talked about gaming at the height of the Russia thing, and I got mass blocked by people that disagreed with me politically and all that stuff. And it just, people keep telling me make a new account and all that, and I eventually will, but they don't make it easy on Twitter to do that. All right, see you later, man. Come on back anytime. Yeah, yeah, we play on Discord, Bob. Yeah, but what I'd like to do is get people to play right here on StreamYards because then I can share the screen better, and I want to use Tabletop Simulator for some of the encounters. Discord gets rickety and weird, especially when you add in more than 3 or 4 people on voice. At least it does with me. So and I hate Dice Witch with a passion. I've tried every dice roller program in Discord, and they all suck equally. So with tabletop, it it all of that goes away. So you don't have to put on the camera or anything like that. You can set it up so it just uses the microphone. So if you don't want to have your face on this thing, it's fine. And I'm not using it to record. Right now it's set to record, but I can still give you the invite and have everybody communicate without ever touching record or going live. So it's not like we're doing a live play with it. It's just a more stable way to communicate than Discord. So that's why I want to use it. But yeah, the last 2 sessions we did, we were playing on Discord. So I got the thing set up so it doesn't matter if you've missed a couple of sessions you can still join the campaign in progress and miss very little. I got it all set up for, I call them on ramps. So I know exactly how you get into it. Yep, super cool. Yeah, here's the thing. Over the years, what's happened is sometimes it runs like a Swiss watch, and then sometimes an update happens and it sucks for months. And right now it seems to be in a slump. I played another Star Wars game on it, and there was no problem. But this time, people, and maybe it's some people who have different, strengths of connection that might, but it seems to be just acting an ass lately. So, and my connection isn't that great either. So sharing, nor is my computer for that matter. So sharing a screen on Discord makes it kind of boat anchor, but it seems to do better here um, with the screen sharing and stuff like that. And I can run my tabletop on it easier. Discord doesn't like tabletop. They kind of conflict. So that's why I was hoping to move to this, but one way or the other, um, that's what we're doing. People were saying that they weren't happy with being completely theater of the mind. They wanted to see some maps so they could orientate themselves better. And the easiest way for me to do that is through this with Tabletop Simulator because it's cheap and it's 3D, looks cool like a miniature table. Um, so yeah, but I may not get everybody to buy into this thing. So we might just be back to Discord one way or the other. But yeah, that's what we're doing Thursday, 7:30. So it's uh well it's how do I put it? The only maybe mistake I made with this campaign is setting it up such that if I explain too much to a prospective player, it becomes a spoiler alert. And so there's got to you have to have some faith when you join the thing. So I can tell you this much: it's set in 3 BBY. I use only EU lore with a handful of exceptions. For example, I took the speeder bike cop out of the Solo movie because I just love Chips and I thought it was cool that that they had a stormtrooper police cop. So I took that, you know. But as far as like significant lore, it's all based on EU, mostly West End game stuff. 3 BBY. Yeah, I don't have maps to draw or anything like that. I'm no good at them, and it's hard to get to pay for Star Wars orientated stuff. I looked around and it was really difficult and all that. So, but with Tabletop Simulator, I don't have to pay for anything, and it's all there. I can make a 3D terrain stuff out of the pieces that comes with it without having to pay or make any of my own. I can just grab them and assemble them. So it makes everything so much easier for me to set up. And I think 3D looks better than 2D anyway. So what I do is I just use it as a means of visual orientation for the players. They don't have to buy the program. I mean, feel free to buy it if you want to. I highly recommend it personally, but um, it's not required to do what we're doing at all. Yeah, I've got a little lore Bible. Um, I made some change. Here's what I did. I used a couple of the books like Rebel Dawn. I used some stuff out of there. I had a couple of things that I was going to say. Okay, this is going to be official canon for my campaign. A couple of anchors, and then I took some stuff and rearranged it both geographically and as far as chronology, because I didn't want it to be one of these things. There's a couple players that seem to have read every book ever written, you know, like all the Anderson books and all the Zahn books and all that. And I thought, well, if I just use that stuff, they'll be able to anticipate everything. So I made some switches to keep it surprise. So it's story wise, it's a little bit different than anything else. Um, but as far as the technology and the ships and all that stuff, I kind of kept it to um, the D6 stuff or the PC games, because the PC games borrowed heavily from D6, at least the ones that I played, like the TIE Fighter series and stuff like that. So, um, but I was good friends with Scott. I probably told you this last time we talked, but I was real good friends with Scott Palter that ran West End Games for years. So uh, he gave me insights onto how they got the stuff and their dealings with LucasArts and stuff like that. It was really cool to listen to that stuff. So um, yeah, and apparently the people when they were making the TIE Fighter series, they were coming to West End Games and looking through their stuff to for ideas and shit. It was pretty cool. Yeah, and yeah, I never read a lot of them either. I read the Thrawn trilogy, that are supposed to be the final chapters. At least that's what they said when they sold them and all that. I read those, but I never read any of the Jedi Academy stuff, or I never even read any of the X-Wing books. Um, to me, playing the RPG was a lot better um, storyline than reading something in a book. So I don't know that much, but I did just use a couple as a boat anchor. Han Solo trilogy was one of them that I used because it was set in the right timeline and all that sort of stuff. So I picked some stuff out of there, mostly Rebel Dawn, but the essential Atlas and the essential chronology was one that I kind of boat anchored everything on. But I did make change. Like I said, sometimes I just went, no, I'm going to change it to this and all that. So, but I kept it super narrow because there's just too much. So it's kind of a unique thing, and it's a rebel origin story. So, and then on top of it, I have a domain game. As this doesn't apply to the players, you don't have to learn this or be involved in all. But there's people playing a kind of domain war game in the same galaxy at the same time, and what they do, you it affects what's going on in the RPG side of things, and vice versa. So, um, yeah, I always thought that was kind of a cool thing to link them together. It was fun. So, but if you, well, the way we got it now is, um, how would I? Okay. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So, but yeah, you be some sort of rebel. So right now the rebels are comprised of Wookiee, Chandrillan, Alderaanian, Corellian, um, Durin, and that's about all that's in there right now. Or you can, if you can choose a species that was part of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, um, as long as I can verify that through my lore, through the chronologies. So you can do that too. But those are that's the spread. So because I'm trying to keep the lore, yeah. So that's uh, pretty big group of people to join with or choose, human or whatever. So yeah, yep, that's what I'm doing. Lost the other. Yep. So let me know if you want to play. We'll give you the link and all that, and get you on board. I do like to write some like I don't write no novels or any of that crap, but I do write small little paragraphs and stuff like that that coincide with things to read. Nothing big, stuff like that. And the other thing I'm doing because I'm playing with a lot of new players, so this might not be as appealing to you, maybe, but maybe I'm just guessing, but I use the Star Wars miniature battles for everything as far as like combat and skill checks because the dice pool thing became kind of a hard thing for some of the new players like the pips and all that. They were getting annoyed and confused by that and and the dice pool stuff was kind of hard to roll on dice switch and all that. So we just went to the miniatures game and used that. Yeah, yeah. So what you do with the miniatures game if you're not familiar is the pips just get rounded. So plus one pip just gets dropped, but plus two pip takes you up to the next number, and then that number is just added to 2d6. And there's a shortened as far as numbers. There's smaller numbers for the spread. You know, easy, moderate, and heroic, and all that. It's just different numbers, um, smaller ones. So that's all we do with it. That way, the new guys can jump in without having to spin their wheels too hard. Oh man, well here's what we did. Yeah, that um, remember Micro Machines? They had all that Star Wars Micro Machines. There was a toy store. Me and my buddy, it was going out of business, and they had to slashing all the prices. Dumping the inventory. So we were getting that Micro Machine stuff at rock bottom. We went out there and just started ripping it off the shelf. Just bags of it, and using them for miniatures. And we took a bag of flour. You know, we didn't have time to be flecking terrain. We weren't good at that anyway, so we just dumped this big thing of flour on it, and then started moving it around with our hands and like combs and stuff, like it was a sand table but white. And then we did Hoth with that. We even had a couple of the laser battery things, the play sets and all that. Yeah, that was fun as hell. And we used West End Games. Um, the miniatures battle for it, but they were teeny. They weren't like the 25 millimeter stuff. They're like 1/72. So it was like really big. And we did that with a couple of Starship games and stuff too. So I took the Star Wars miniatures battles and I kind of made a version of it for the space battles because I just wanted to make sure that the new people weren't overwhelmed with rules. But yeah, I used to love to play that war game. There's the tabletop simulator's got a bunch of it. I was just playing it earlier for people. Here's what it looks like. It's super cool. Um, and they've got an at it. It could look better, but it sure as hell could look worse too. But they've got an at and a chicken walker and all that, so you can have that too on the tabletop. Check it out. I'll turn it on for the see if the share works. So this is how it works on this system. If you play kind of like a VTT or whatever you call it, share screen window. Yeah, check it out. Oop, got to get the right buttons to push. Okay, there it is. So yeah. So use these little things and then some dice. That's how it works. Like that. That's my game. They got all sorts of little miniatures for it. Let's see what else we got in here. Oops, hit the wrong button. Oh, that's the terrain stuff. I don't want that. That's more terrain. Oh yeah, here's one of those. Here's the right one. Uh, Here's, oop. Yeah, here's some stormtroopers. Yeah, they got this thing too, speeder bike. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that great? So, and then you can right now I've got it for grass because this is jungle, but you can set it up and get a white snow tower and all that. Yeah. So, yeah, a couple of crates and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's how we're playing this stuff. I think it's so much better than 2D, and it's so much cheaper. I get this for $20, and I can get all this stuff for free instead of having to pay for DLC. People just import these things from their 3D prints or whatever, and then take the JSON file or however it works. I'm not really all that computer literate when it comes to 3D, but I think there's some file that you use to put into a 3D printer, and if you put it into this game, it like does a virtual 3D print or whatever. So, of course, a lot of these guys are making the Disney stuff, so but that's all right. You can use it for all sorts of different things. But yeah, so that's how we're gonna play. So next session, it's a 3-team combined effort. It's the players and 2 other NPC rebel teams are knocking out an Imperial communications relay station on an asteroid. Well, a small planetoid body. It has gravity, but it's like a small, almost asteroid. It's like Pluto or whatever. And in fact, it's taken from Star Wars Miniatures Battle. I took the A Time for Silence miniatures campaign and just RPG'd it up and stuffed it in my campaign. So that's what we're doing next session. So what I would do with you is I would have you as one of the other squad leaders, so that um, you'll link up at the battle, and then you can go off with the team, for the rest of the story as it goes on. So this would probably be it for the scripted story, and then after that it becomes semi sandbox. When I say semi, you have leadership that is directing things to some degree, but it's not always going to be here's what you're going to be able to make some choices to as players as to where you want to go and things like that. So um, there was a bunch of philosophical discussion about that. Is it railroading? I said no, it's not railroading. Here's the thing: you voluntarily, your characters enlisted in a military. That that's not railroad. You're not forced to, but you chose to. And with that choice comes superiors that are going to tell you what to do. That's so. Um, so some people are like, no, that's railroading. I don't want to play it, but other people understood it. So that's where you're at. You're this kind of infiltration team that gets different missions and stuff like that go on. So. Um, and that's the premise of it for the most part. But I've played this particular campaign 4 times now. One time I played it for a year and a half, and I've taken all of the things that occurred in the other versions of the campaign and put them in as lore and stuff that's going on. So you have all these different directions and things going on. So, and all of the NPC, not all of them, but a vast majority of the NPCs that are rebels that you interact with are actually characters from other versions of this game or this campaign. Um, that I had people keep logs and stuff like that, so I added all that stuff in. So uh, the other teams that you're working with are actually comprised of player character sheets from other things. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I love this one. I have 8 campaigns for West End Games. This is the one I played the most. A couple of them I haven't played at all, um, but this is probably the largest one so far. because it's been played so many times. Oh yeah, let's see what else. Oh, I gotta get out. You can't. You gotta see. Let's see if I can get the ad out though. You gotta because it's epic to see that. There's also a snow speeder in here somewhere too. It runs slow because of my connection. I had high speed internet, and then my apartment complex made a deal to provide it to all the people for free, which was nice, except they made a deal for the for the slow version of it, the lowest tier. And I was like, I called and I said, can I just make up the difference and get the higher tier? And the company said, no, we've locked it in. You're stuck with the low tier. And I'm like, oh, you mothers, you ruined it. But so that's why it takes a while. But I know that I can see if I can get the ad out of here. Me and my search foo isn't that great, but let's see. It's pretty cool though. Maybe it's in here. Oh, here's a one of those. Tie interceptor. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know. Maybe not. I got a lot of stuff. Oh, here it is. There we go. There's the ad. Yeah, it's unpainted, but what are you gonna do? I can make it kind of gray. Yeah, that doesn't really make it look all that much better, but not very much in the way of texture, but still pretty cool. It does the job. So, but yeah, the one West End Games that had an AT-AT, turns out that the toy AT-AT from Kenner is pretty close to the size that an AT-AT should be in 25 millimeter scale. So we were playing West End Games at Gen Con with the old metal miniatures and the Kenner toys for vehicles. It was really cool. So there's one it takes too long to find, but somewhere in here I've got one of these where these things actually fly and do barrel rolls and stuff when you touch them. Super cool. So anyway, but that's how we play. Yep. So what else is new? What you been doing? Working on something, some game of your own or something? Well, I shouldn't have gone into that gossip columnist diatribe. Everybody, Everybody went silent. It's just bad mouth. I wasn't really bad mouthing that chick, but sometimes she. I had. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna. Oh man, that was Star Wars RPG before Star Wars RPG came out. I've been dying to play that. Oh yeah. So many people say it isn't a good game, and I go, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. I'd love to play that again. I didn't get to play enough of it." Um, but yeah, I'd love it. That's a cool one. Yeah, nice to have face to face. I wish I could work something out with that, but it in my neck of the woods, it's really not in the cards. There's a game store. Talk about gossip. This isn't really gossip, but it's truth. The gal who I think you call her a gal. I'm not even sure what the pronoun is these, but um, she worked with my ex-wife before it was my ex-wife, and so she knows me, and she know well. I mean, we've met, and she knows that I don't agree with her politically. And because I don't, she won't let me into her store. So even if I wanted to play face to face with people half my age or whatever, I couldn't get into the one. That's the closest one to me. So and my guys, the people I used to play with, they've either passed away or moved away and started families. So I'm shit out of luck when it comes to face to face. Yeah, yeah, that's another one I haven't. I didn't even play that in the 80s. That was a strictly 70s thing that I played with the old Mark Miller version, and and um, and I could never get anybody to do it after that. I could only get it at Gen Con, and I'd love to take another shot at it, but I don't have the money to go buy Mongoose or anything like that. I've got the original stuff that I bought, you know, at the booth when Mark was, there at the booth at the con. So, but yeah, that would be fun too. Another one I've been trying to get people to play is Paranoia from West End Games. That one was fun as hell too. But yeah, it's been a long time since I played Star Frontier, so love to do that too. I listened to Zeb Cook talk about it on a stream about a year ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And then I'm like, "Is anybody ever going to play this?" And they're like, "Well, it wasn't really that good of a game." And I go, "I don't know why." They didn't really have an answer for that, um, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I've got all of it. But anyway, another one I wanted to try was Gangbusters. That's one I've never played. I just wanted just sounds. I think it's like the only TSR game I haven't played. Yeah, that might be the only one I've never played. I've just want to try it. Yeah, yeah. I played. Yeah, yeah. That was one I never had a problem. My guys would jump into that anytime. They loved it. I'd love to try that one again too. Yep, yep. I got all. I don't know if I got all of it, but I sure got a lot of it laying around. So that I bought. But yeah, that'd be fun. Gangbusters would be fun to try. At least it seems to me. I've got a bunch of other games. I'll probably never get anybody to play. I've got Twilight 2000, but GDW Twilight 2 because I don't have any of the modern stuff, but I've got one for that. Um, that's about it. Everything else is for my own system, which I keep. I got a buddy that just told me, he goes, "You got to shut up and if you're going to keep talking about it, you better do it, or you better stop talking about it because you get all these people that want to play it, and then you don't have it." But I keep going back and forth on even making mine, but I made a bunch of stuff for it too. But it could work with other things. Like I've got one that could Gamma World would work for it. It's kind of this. It's not a nuclear holocaust, but it's a ecological disaster. Oh, you got a boat. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be fun. I have to check that out. That'd be a fun read. Yeah. Yep. I love that. Uh, But it, the- if I played Paranoia, it would probably be the first time I played it stone cold sober, though. We used to really, we used to really get in rare form to play that one because just like to suck back beers back in the day when we were playing that one. But try that. Um, yeah, yeah. I got a well, I mean, the system I made, I guess, kind of like that. I made a world that has a lot of like it transcends almost 100 years. So if you get real into the future, the interstellar stuff becomes relevant. But in the near future, the gamma world type of stuff is works better. So it's kind of like depending on the time frame, pick a different RPG to handle it or something like that. Or the one I've got. Mine's kind of a GURPS type of thing. It's supposed to be, you know, uh, universal. Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. The Portland. What else? That's about. Well, I've always wanted to go back and do some more uh, Boot Hill because I never really got my fill of that. It came and went so fast in my area that I wouldn't mind doing that again. Problem with Old West now is everybody wants to mix it up. They want to do cowboys and aliens, and there's nothing wrong with that. I used to, that'd be fun too. But I just love to do just kind of an old Clint Eastwood, John Wayne type of, Western. But um, I don't have any. I kind of wrote something, but I don't even remember where that was. Um, I tried to get something that wasn't just another version of the Lincoln County War 100 times or whatever, but I can't remember what exactly I did or what I did with it. But that would be fun. I've got D-Day stuff, war stuff. I played the war RPG with a gal, and she really loved it. She says I thought I was going to hate it, and the only reason I did it is because it was D-Day and it was promotional and all that. She was trying to help me out with the channel, and she said I can't believe how much I enjoyed this and how emotional it made me. Her you know her grandpa had just died. Her grandpa was in the war and all that. She really liked it. It was one of the best compliments I've ever had on GMing and gaming. She was really into that. I can't get many people to do military gaming though. RPG stuff. I've got a ton of it. Doesn't seem like most people are into that sort of thing. I used to play Revised Recon all the time. That was another one we had a hoot playing. It was Tour of Duty was on TV. So it wasn't. It was kind of. It wasn't serious. It was kind of like Black Sheep Squadron, but in Vietnam. It was more of a TV trope type of gameplay than anything. We did that, and we did the Advanced Recon once because which was like it was some Delta Force thing because that was the movie out at the time. So it was some hostage rescue operation or something like that. Uh, yeah, see and that's cool. Everybody seems to be into the kind of mix it up thing, and nobody really wants to do. I just I just want to do like Pale Rider, the RPG. Uh, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like people are like, why would Doesn't that seem like a a real downer of a subject? And it's like, look, man, we're not playing Walter Cronkite and Khe Sanh. We're not, it's not reality. It's kind of this, action movie spoof version of Vietnam. It's, it's so. Um, but yeah, we used to do that and have a lot of fun. Yeah. Um, and I like the system. It's percentile and quick and easy and all that. But it was hard to get some people to play because they just you know they'd look at it and go, I don't. That sounds like a bummer. But uh, Twilight 2000 was a big thing, but that's another one hard to get people to play because it's not 1985 anymore. Red Dawn really doesn't. Oh, that's another one though. If you're old enough and you like and I am, I'm sure you probably remember too. Um, uh, the the uh, the West End games. I keep forgetting the name of it. Um, but that was one I only got to play a couple of times. I swear I played it with Sandy Peterson, but I may be wrong about that West End game. So, um, but it's kind of a, a cinematic. It's like Red Dawn the movie. Price of Freedom. I've always wanted to try that again. I only got to play it at a con. I swear I played it with Sandy, but I could be wrong. Um, yeah, I really liked it because I was a big Micro Armor player um, when Twilight 2000 came out. So it dovetailed right. I was buying tactical wargaming sets from my local game store that had rules you know for tactical nuclear weapons in it and shit like that. So it was like, well, this is perfect, man. Um, yeah, Price of Freedom. Like I said, I only played it once. I swear I played with Sandy, but I might be misremembering. I don't forget what I played with Sandy. I don't think it was Call of Cthulhu, but whatever. Um, but it was at a con, and it was very it's typical of West End games, very cinematic, not really serious. It was kind of a lark. It was a lot of fun. I was like, I could do more with this. It would be fun to play. Um, where Twilight 2000 was a little bit more. It was, how do you say it? Like serious fun? I don't know, but uh, I have a big scenario. Here's what I've got for Twilight 2000, and I thought this would sound really appealing to people, but most of them are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But so my uncle, my my mother's sister's husband, was the designated survivor for Reagan. I've got the article that explains it all and why he was, even though he wasn't often listed as such. And he was asked to participate in some war games, and one was Proud Prophet. He did it in 81, 82, and 83, maybe even 84, but I don't even know if they had one. But anyway, um, he told me about the one that went really sideways. This was like a Soviet Cold War. It was a big deal. It was one of these big things. And the one went really sideways that ended up being talked about by Reagan at the State of the Union in 84. And he didn't have much to tell me. He says, I can't tell you very much, but he gave me some stuff and explained it. So I've read about it since, and now that it's 40 whatever years later, and I've got the scenario based on that, and I've always wanted to play it because it's what the American government thought a nuclear exchange, the aftermath of a nuclear exchange would look like versus what the movies thought it was. So I thought that would be really fun to play, but so far nobody's found that appealing. Um, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. And there was uh I, I again might be misremembering at my age, but the mass battles for Traveler were pretty much based off the same mass, like the mass battles. There was a like a micro armor set that came with Traveler, or like a hex and grid war game or something like that. And I thought they were basically the same system, just changed the technology and stuff like that for the Traveler one, or I should say vice versa, because the Traveler one came first. But I thought that the GD, the Twilight 2000, was based off of it. I might be wrong, but yeah. But yeah, that's cool. To kind of transcend, go from today into the future. Hell yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be fun. There we go. But yeah, I've got that with one. It was a sci-fi book that I was helping. I was going to co-write with this individual, and they turned out not to have the the motivation to. They were great with ideas, but when it came to implementation, they really didn't have the motivation to write the book. And but I did a big outline. I did fill out a bunch of stuff, wrote some dialogue and battle scenes and stuff like that. So I took all the notes of it and I turned it into this kind of RPG world. And it the same kind of deal. The first part of it starts in the near 2020s or something 40s or something like that. So I could still get away with using Twilight 2000, but then as it goes on, when the world starts to crack a little bit, you go to Gamma World, and then the next thing would be probably something like Traveler Star Frontiers, because you can start going out into the solar system and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a cool concept. I love to do it. Problem is when you do stuff like that, most people go, "Oh, you'd never finish it," and they don't want to do it. But yeah, Striker, that was it. I couldn't think of it. For ground battles with yeah, they have a supplement for that too for boarding actions. God, they made so much, and they weren't the only ones that made it. FASA made a bunch of Traveler stuff. There's all sorts of third-party stuff, but I remember somebody made some sort of boarding action kind of miniatures game type of thing for it. But yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right, Asante. That's uh, there's I don't know if it's still around, but there used to be a really great Traveler uh website um called Sodani Base, and it had sector generators on it. It had counter generators for the war game, the counter war game that came with it, and a whole bunch of other like random generators and resources. But that's a long time ago. Some of that stuff that's been around forever. It might not be here anymore, but and the stupid AI won't. Not the same. Yeah, here it is. The Zodani base. It's still around. It's a little bit different. Not as good. Some of the stuff doesn't work anymore. But yeah, here it is. It's got some pretty good Traveler stuff on it still. Yeah. Oh, you know it then. Yeah. Yeah, I used to have like those. You could make up your. I used it for Panzer Blitz. It even had a section that you could use for Panzer Blitz, where it had all the Panzers, and you could put in whatever attack factors you wanted. You could make your own war game stuff because it had all the symbols. It was that ugly blue background, and there were little radio buttons. It looks really primitive, today, but yeah, yeah, yeah. That was another big one. Yeah, yeah. There was also, man, the internet in the 90s was so much better. There wasn't all this commercialization and restriction. There was just cool shit that people were doing, that sharing good stuff, and you know I mean, I know it's an IP violation, so, but you used to be able to go to like a site that had all the sound effects for Star Wars and Star Trek and shit like that. And you could just download them. Oh yeah, that stuff was cool. Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. And then there was all sorts of. Somebody did that with a Star Wars Galaxy, but it never really fully completed it and stuff like that. But they tried to do that with that one. But yeah, I remember that. There was one for BattleTech too, but it was a little. It was the same thing. It was a little bit over ambitious. There's so many planets in BattleTech you could never finish it. But some of them you could like click on and it would open up a new window and it would have details and all that. Yeah, it was cool. Uh, yeah, that see that it's. I wish they would bring that one back. You could. I mean, what a neat tool for a mass. To run a campaign with. But yeah, yeah, I'd play that, but all I've got is the original stuff. And it's one of those things at this point where with me and money, if I don't start using it, I've got to start selling it. I don't want to, but because I have all the original Mark Miller stuff, the original, yeah. So I either use it or liquidate it because the bills are piling up. So, and they don't look like they're going to get any lower. So, but yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I wonder if he's got some links. Oh, there's the Traveler Wiki, Traveler map. Is it still there? I bet you this is just a nerfed version. Well, maybe not. This is pretty big, but I don't think it's all of it. Here, check it out. Uh, yeah. Is this showing up right? Sometimes the okay, yeah, it's only doing this. That's not really the one I'm looking for. How do I get it to show me the one? Oh, I know. It's all about hitting the right button. And I didn't hit the right button. Okay, here we go. There it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little piece of it. Oh, wait. If you zoom out more. Ah, not just a little chunks. Oh, here's another part. Ah, work in progress, apparently. How far out do I have to go? My old clunky machine's huffing and puffing. There it is. Yeah, unfinished. But that's okay. Here's the wiki. Maybe they've got it. Something. Traveler, that's probably going to go. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, it goes back to the same one. Huh. Still pretty cool. Twilight 2000. So yeah, I got all sorts of things to play like that. Um, but boy, I'd love to try some of those other Star Wars games too. The one I got now is my favorite, but I'd still love to play the other stuff. I got them. Plus, I got scenarios for the miniature games and the space games and all that. That's another thing I'd like to do. Yep. Yep. Just running an open world would be fun. So that's what we were talking about just before he came in. Me and Michael Dale there. There's a guy trying to run a giant open world. So he's I've been trying to do that for years and it doesn't really work out, but I'd love the idea of a giant living campaign being played online. Yeah, I know I got my connection so bad I got to wait about 10 seconds or more to hear. To, big leg. Yeah, yeah. That's what I tried to do it for years. I tried to sell it, the concept to people, and most go, "Oh, you never do. It's untenable. Take too long. No one will ever do it." And then these guys, they got the idea, and they're trying it. But I think they'll get the same thing. But it would be fun. So I tried doing it with um, Beckme and the Mistra, and it didn't seem like the guys that were playing were quite grasping the concept that well. So kind of, and then Christmas hit, and it's always the same. There's some people that go, "Oh, I've got some time off around Christmas so I can play," and then or whatever holiday you practice, and then as soon as the actual family starts showing up and all that, well, then it's over. And then you never hear from them until after the first of the year, and by then it's kind of broken up and everybody's forgotten about it. So that's what happened. But I was doing an open world thing with that was kind of neat. You started at level 10 so that you could have a barony. So it was kind of it was that Dominion play, but I'd do it with anything. Um, I have some people that want to do it for Greyhawk. I've got a high res scan of Len Lakofka, his playtest map of Greyhawk, which is significantly different in places than the Darlene map. Um, and I wanted to run something on that. There's some people that said they would try it. Uh, but so far not enough for a whole party. So, and I got an open, I just a regular, I got this program called Worldographer that does a great job at just doing a crawl, just an open world crawl. It's really does it quite well. The map and generates the material for it and everything. So yeah, it's just it. Beck Me just is like a fleshed out version of the original, and um, so it's just like every other D&D really that I've played is that once you start getting into that level, you can start talking about dominions. You start getting henchmen showing up, and if you've got enough money. So what I did is I just gave everybody a 50,000 gold pieces and a heap to start with, and then the idea was to go out and get more territory, so you get more taxes, you know, maybe hunt for treasure and stuff like that, and try to build a bigger castle, and then raise an army and get more territory. Like a lot of those video games, like uh, what's the one, Realm Builder or whatever it is, that's Knights of the Realm or whatever, that kind of thing. So we were doing it play by post, and it was kind of free form and it didn't have any turns. It was just tell me what you want to do and I'll tell you how long it takes to get it done in game world time. And I don't think people were getting that too well. Maybe I'm not very good at explaining things. So, um, but some people were waiting for it to start up again, and but others just kind of faded away after Christmas. So I'd do it again. I'd try it again with other people. Maybe it'll work better. You gotta, some just, and that was the other problem. Some people didn't have BECME and they kept wanting to use the the World Cyclopedia. Yeah, and it doesn't. At first, they're like, "Hey, it's the same thing and it'll work better," but it doesn't have the Gazette tier information and all that stuff. So it doesn't really work into minion play at all. You really need Beckme for the true Dominion play. Yeah, that might have been the reason I didn't use that is because some of these guys had never played at all, and I was like, you know, if you tell them to go buy AD&D hardcovers, they're not going to want to spend the money on that. Um, but that was the problem. Not everybody had the right material. And what I really wanted to, just be like, go get a PDF. We all know they're there, but you don't, it's kind of sketchy. So but I could run one with AD&D too. And so I got all the generators there too. So I got two people that want to do it. I don't know what kind of experience level. I know this. One person has only played 5e. I don't know about the other person. So I don't know how much I'd have to teach her. But she wanted to do it and she was really into it. I wouldn't mind. But I could do that with anything. Hell, I could do that with Twilight 2000, you know. Just, run something like that with that. Where you're I don't know, like just survivors of the Holocaust and now you're, kind of Mad Max it. Something like that. Start them in in the foothills of the Rockies or something like that, just kind of wander around. That might be a way to do it. I've got BX2, but I never played as much of that. It was either first edition or Beckme. First edition for the guys who are into it, and Beckme was for the people that were like, well, it looks interesting, but it seems like it's difficult. Okay, start with this. That's what we'd do. We'd hand them Beckme, and then move them into AD&D afterwards. You know, of course, a lot of them never wanted to leave. They like, this is enough. Okay, but um, but yeah, I got all my well, I don't have all my D&D's AD&D stuff. I sold my AD&D originals, but I bought all the PDFs from drive-through because I wanted to be able to play after I sold the stuff, but I had to sell it for the money. I was hurting too much, so I had to get rid of it. Yeah. So I can do that too. Yep, I'll be selling other stuff too, unfortunately. I got so much AD&D or TSR stuff, and I've got art that I'm trying to sell too. I got to get pictures of it, but I got like original art um, from the packaging company that worked for TSR or worked with TSR. It was called Wagner for most of its life. Wagner? Yeah, I got a bunch of that stuff. A couple of big paintings that I for sale. So we'll see once I get pictures of it. I bought an easel to put it on to take the pictures. I don't even know what it is. I've never pulled it out to look at it fully. But my uncle told me it was stuff it was artwork for projects that got canceled. The big stuff is. So but I've always been afraid to pull it out of its protective layer enough to really look at it until I was ready to sell it. So we'll see what it looks like when I get it out. Yep. Oof. Well, I think I've run out of steam. It's a little odd day with the change in schedule, Just kind of lost an hour and I'm dragging. I think I'll hang it up soon here and I'm reading a cartoon. All right. Well, yeah. See what we got here. All right. So Notepad was great because oh, huh. So, oh, all right. Yeah, I gotta get going too. I'm all right. Yeah. Oh. Let me get you a link to the. Oh, you're already on the server. Yeah. We put it out on Thursday. Talk to you later.